right, we made it. Oh my goodness, let me put on my shoes. Welcome. This is 100 Huntley Street. And no, Greg, the quirky camera guy, is not going to be hosting.
God, I still have my job. You're actually taller with your shoes on.
I am taller with the shoes. I really am.
Aren't you glad for your cardio training?
Yes, a great exercise this early morning. We're so glad that you've joined us today.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Have you ever been in a desperate situation where you just weren't sure how it was all going to turn out? Kind of like this morning.
Yeah.
You weren't sure how it was going to turn out. Well, we'll be chatting with a young woman who was in that place but made it through to the other side.
Hey, have you heard the popular song Say Something? Chris Stapleton, Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
Kind of will be summing up. You've been talking with Pastor Jensen Franklin, and one of the lyrics in the song, sometimes the greatest way to say something is to say nothing at all.
Oh, and someone else, so we'll be talking about that, how to say nothing at all. Okay. And someone else who likes to say nothing. Here's our guest Bible teacher, Phil Calloway.
I've been married 32 years, but I have to be honest, about 28 real good ones. I know a few guys who have committed more relational errors than someone whose whiskers I shave each morning. I can be critical, demanding, and impatient, all before breakfast. My wife, one of the kindest people you will ever meet, admits to me that she lacked the courage to confront me for years. She needed something to spur her on. One day, a huge neighbor dog strolled into our yard. Our Shih Tzu lunged at it like a mouse at an elephant, frightening the poor animal away. My wife smiled at this, and then she lunged at me. Understand, I live in a world of words. I am constantly reading, writing, speaking. Ramona is quiet. When she speaks, she often struggles for the right words. It's frustrating for her. As the youngest of 7, her role was silence, and when she said, "Pass the salt," she said it 11 times before being heard. I, on the other hand, have no trouble speaking up. In fact, by the end of a conversation, I've sometimes said things I didn't agree with. But listening, that's another matter. Have you noticed that a dog doesn't say much? Maybe that's why they make such good friends. After Mojo attacked that monster dog, Ramona and I argued. I presented my case brilliantly, arguing the merits of my point of view. She was silent, and then she lunged, punching me on the shoulder. It wasn't a gentle love tap. It contained all the force of the words she wished she could use. I had it coming, and for a change, I was speechless. "You can argue circles around me," she said. I don't care if you're right. Your words hurt." If that isn't a turning point in a guy's marriage, he's an idiot. I said nothing for a while. Then I moved toward her and said, "I'm sorry. Don't touch me," she said. "Don't think of it. Just leave me alone. We'll talk again, maybe in August." I went out for another walk with the dog. I told Mojo thanks a lot, but I was thankful. This dog showed my wife that there's a time to growl. This dog showed me that if you want to love someone, listen to them. Hang out with a dog and you learn that nothing is often a very clever thing to say.
All right, thanks, Phil. Great having you on the program this week, and always good food for thought there. And I was thinking of my daughter's dog, Rory, a little French bulldog, and love taking her for a walk. And I can talk to her, and she doesn't talk back to me. And I think that's why there is a special relationship that we have with our pets. And also thinking, too, you know, how many times have we said something, go, "Oh, I wish I could take that back." You know, when I was first getting into radio, we, of course, record things on the reel-to-reel tapes. And if you said something wrong, you wanted to edit it out, you just rolled it back and then cut it. Well, often we say something, it's too late. And I did hear it said years ago, that's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen more, talk less. So words are important, absolutely. Things we say, things we don't say. Pastor and author Jensen Franklin has something to say as well. And here's Maggie to find out what.
I hope all this month you've been blessed by the segments that we've been doing with Pastor Jensen Franklin on this great new book, Love Like You've Never Been Hurt. Now, today we're talking about something that can be a little, something that's challenging, I think, for all of us. Sometimes we feel like we've forgiven somebody, but deep down inside, maybe we haven't.
Right. And, you know, if the way that you know that you've forgiven someone, I think I've said this before, is if you hear their name and you don't get angry. And another way is what you say. You know, your tongue is a revealer of your heart. How you speak, you really can't disguise that. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. If you look up the word nitroglycerin, if you look up the word nitroglycerin in the dictionary, it will say a substance used to blow up bridges or heal hearts. Because if somebody's having a heart issue, they'll give them a nitro pill. So your words are like nitro. Your words can build bridges, or your words can blow up. Your words can heal hearts, or it can blow up bridges. And it's all up to how you speak. The Bible said death and life are in the power of the tongue. What are you saying? You know, if you speak to the fool will stand up. If you speak to the king in your children, the king will stand up. If you speak to the fool in your husband, the fool will stand up. If you speak to the king in him, the king will stand up. It's all in your words. Don't use your words to blow up bridges. Use your words to heal hearts and reconcile relationships.
That's a good challenge. Maybe we've used our words in opportune ways, or we've called our children names. You're just like your father, or you act just like this person. And it's not really supporting them, and it's not really showing them love. This is a good challenge today. Thank you so much, Pastor Jensen. Again, the name of the book is Love Like You've Never Been Hurt: Hope, Healing, and the Power of an Open Heart.
The human heart was created with a great capacity to love, but along with that comes a great capacity to feel pain, wounds from those who are closest to us. Can you relate?
Do you need your family to be reconciled? Do you have relationships that are breaking your heart? How long has it been since you spoke to somebody you care about? You need the book, Love Like You've Never Been Hurt. I wrote it with you in mind. I believe God has a now message for your life. Fight for your marriage. Fight for your children. Fight for your grandchildren. Fight for peace. Fight for restoration, reconciliation. This is no time to give up on your family. If you'll read this book, He'll give you a blueprint plan of what happened for me and my family. I know God can make happen for your family.
We'll send you a copy as our thanks for a suggested gift of $50 or more this month. This is a 100% viewer-supported program. We can't do it without you. To enjoy more of 100 Huntley Street, please call with your donation today, 1-800-265-3100, or visit crossroads.ca/donate.
I don't know about you, but I'm just a tad convicted listening to that. You know, how many times have we said something, again, we regret it, we've hurt somebody. I know, being married now for, almost 35 years, there are times when, I've said something to Arlene, I go, why did I say that? And then there's other times I felt an emotion, I wanted to say something, I was able to practice some self-control, which by the way is fruit of the Spirit, and then I said something positive, and it just made the thing just settle down. We have that power, and like as Pastor Franklin was saying, we can either build or blow up bridges, or we can heal hearts. And I don't know about you, but I want to be on the side that heals hearts. And again, this is a great book, Love Like You've Never Been Hurt. If we really want to be the people that Jesus wants us to be, to bring glory to Him, we have to work on our forgiveness, reconciliation, all those kinds of things. So again, it's a very important book. Get it today. Well, our next guest is a beautiful young woman who found herself on the outs with her family because of her life choices. Here's Maggie to find out why.
My guest today's life has been filled with a lot of ups and downs, searching for safety, hope, and identity in the midst of much pain and at a huge cost. Thanks for joining us today, Sohala.
Thank you so much for having me.
So grew up in Tehran and during the height of war.
I did, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I remember as a child you're born and raised into havoc. There's war all the time. There's uncertainty within the country. And I remember as a child going through places with my parents, and you always heard it in the backgrounds, hearing the war sirens and just how hard it was. And so my parents did form a plan to leave when everything looked like it was crumbling for them. They wanted to give me and my sister a better life, and they knew if they had stayed, it just would not work out the way that they wanted us to have a good life.
Paint this picture. So how old were you when you were living in Toronto?
I was about four when we left, yeah.
So close to, I have a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So what was life like for a 4-year-old hiding?
Well, it sadly was normal because that's all we knew. We didn't know any different. There were moments where and for me, it feels like moments, but I know long term, there were probably more moments like that where we'd go to parks, we'd go to picnics, we'd have family functions and weddings and fun stuff. But the trauma of being terrified, or like sitting in my grandmother's house watching TV, and all of a sudden the house starts to shake and all the cousins and the kids are running into the doorways or under the stairs to hide, that overshadowed the joy. You know, it overshadowed life in itself. And it's what you became accustomed to know, that is what life was. So you just accepted it because that's all we knew. There wasn't anything different.
And faith construct in your family, what was that? What was your
Yeah, so I grew up in a Muslim house, but my parents were more liberals. So they didn't like the fact that their country had fallen under an Islamic regime all of a sudden. So they're more like the liberal type. They wanted us to have choice. They wanted us to worship God, but not be oppressed with covering our hair and changing our clothes and everything. And so for them, it was really important for us to have choice, even though they still wanted us to practice Islam and fall under what they were raised, you know, traditionally through relatives and grandparents passed down to us.
And so your family flees. At one point you're in Torino, and this amazing story of how God kind of answered your father's prayer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell me about this.
Well, it was Christmas Eve, and I love how God just works, and he's like, I know how this is going to end out, even though you don't know. And my dad found himself in the streets winter, Christmas Eve, wandering, crying, knew that our money was, you know, low and we didn't have much left to, you know, go to the next country or however long it took to come to Canada. But we needed a visa and we didn't have the visa. And every day he would go to the embassy to get the visa, and every day he was denied. So he walked in the streets, found this huge church, sees this huge statue of Jesus, and he walked up to it and he just said, I know you're not my God. I know that we don't do anything to worship you, but you're a God of these people and you're a God of this land. And I'm asking you to help me and my family out. And because I know you will, to honor you, I'm going to light a candle each year on the eve of your birth. Wow. He lit the candles, completely overwhelmed with emotions, left, and the very next day he went back to the embassy, and without even a blink of an eye, we had our visa. We were on our way to Canada. And since then, every year my dad did honor that, and he lit a candle every year. And now my husband and I, with our children, we continue that on. We light a candle every Christmas Eve, and we just give honor and glory to Christ for doing what he did for us.
So you enter into Canada, this brand new country, but start struggling with identity issues to the point where you want to take your life.
I did. It was hard. I felt like a black sheep growing up. I felt like I didn't belong within my own family. And it wasn't because I didn't feel loved or I wasn't loved, but I was different. I always tell people I was more Canadianized. You know, my sister and my brother wanted to hold on to our traditional roots, to be Persian, to practice our faith, which was fine. But for me, all my friends, like they went to Persian school. I never did. I wanted to stay in, you know, the playground or go out with my friends and have fun. I liked my new life. You know, the old was gone. I didn't have to worry about the war and being afraid to play in a park. And so I struggled with, how come everybody wants me to be this way, but I don't feel like I belong. I feel like I don't even belong in my family. I feel like I was meant to be somewhere different or live a different life. And none of it was bringing me any type of satisfaction. None of it was bringing me any type of wholeness, because I was completely empty inside. You know, I didn't have that life that the Holy Spirit gives us. And I just set out for a quest to learn, and through wrongful teachings and wrong friends coming into my life, I contemplated committing suicide numerous times. And every time I came so close to it, I couldn't. There was this deep heartache within me that was like, no, you can't, you can't. You just need to wait for me, you can't. And I'm so thankful that I never did. I'm so thankful I never went as far as I did, and I just stayed true to waiting for the Lord until he showed himself to me.
Well, when we come back, Sohala is struggling with her identity when she meets a young man who changes her life forever. We'll be right back.
Felt like the end of the world to me, and it felt like I didn't have anything left to live for.
Rather than being elated or thanking God that I was still alive, that I had another chance, I started picking up more Ambien off the floor that I'd spilled.
At the revelation of Jesus Christ, our trials will result in purpose and honor and glory.
I hadn't done anything except gotten prayed for, and I wanted to know more.
The person that says hope is what keeps me alive can also go, well, wait a minute, if I have hope, there must be joy here too.
And then we see that, wait, there's purpose in my difficulty, there's purpose in my trials.
I tell people that I took my own life and God gave it back to me.
I felt something I'd never felt before, which I now know is the Holy Spirit.
This moment doesn't have to define me. With sorrow, with grief, with anxiety.
Jesus heals, and that there is hope for me, and it doesn't matter what doctors say, and it's just like somebody gives you an injection of life.
We're back with Sahala Kortan telling this amazing story of growing up in Tehran, moving to Canada, new world essentially, and just feeling really lost. Well, one day you meet a young man by the name of Scott, and he starts to talk to you about Jesus.
He did, yeah. We were 15 in high school, and I remember the first time I saw him, there was so much light exuding from him, and I just thought, who is this kid? Like, I got to get to know him. And it wasn't anything like having a crush, but there was this, I was drawn to this light that I'd never seen on anyone before. And so, lucky enough for us, every class that we had that first year, we were in the exact same class together, except our homeroom. And we had a friendship. We based it on a really good, solid friendship, getting to know each other, talking. And he started telling me about Jesus. And I got really excited until my Muslim friends found out, and they just put the lid on it. They shut it down, and they reassured me how awful it was for any Muslim to convert, that there's no hope for you, that you're not allowed. It's a huge sin against God. And so I talked to Scott. I said, listen, I love our friendship, but you need to respect me. I'm a Muslim, you're a Christian, and we just need to keep it at that. And so he stopped. And it wasn't until a year and a half after that I finally realized, hey, I'm missing something. Scott hasn't talked to me about his Jesus for a long time, and it scared me. And
what scared you about it?
It scared me because I knew he was full of so much life, and all of a sudden, that life kind of stopped, that I was receiving. Every time he spoke about Jesus to me, it kept me going. There was this excitement inside until I noticed, hey, it's gone. And so I started talking to him more about it. I started talking to my Muslim friends about our faith. And literally, eventually, one day, my Muslim friend said, if you convert, you're going to burn in hell. Wow. And my Christian friend said, if you don't convert, you're going to burn in hell. And so I found myself in this place of, God, what did I do? I'm burning in hell. I don't like this. And I had a really honest, heartbreaking conversation with God as I walked home from high school, weeping, and he revealed himself to me. And I went home and I wept and I cried, and I woke up. And before I slept, I took a nap. I cried out to the one true God. I said, I just want to know the one true God. Whoever you are, I just want to know you. I'm tired of feeling dead inside, like my prayers aren't being heard, that I'm just praying to the wall. And I fell asleep and I woke up, and it was like this jolt of electricity that went through my body. And I heard his voice, and he said, it's now or never. You need to make the decision. It's now or never. And I called Scott, and we had a quick conversation. He thought I was pranking him because we love playing practical jokes on each other. But I convinced him, like, no, this is serious. I really want to do this. I've made up my mind. And the very next day at school, we walked into a forested area, and I gave my life to Christ then. And it was the most incredible day of my life. It really was.
And you knew that this would be at a huge cost, that your family would not be happy. Tell us about dinner time and what would happen once your family knew that you were a Christian.
Yeah, well, it became really difficult. And back then, I didn't realize how much it would hurt my parents. Being a parent now, I can understand as I'm in their shoes. But they would have dinner together, my parents with my siblings, and I wasn't allowed to sit with them. So I would wait till they were finished having dinner. And when they were done eating dinner and the table was cleared, I'd go in the kitchen, and whatever leftovers there were, I'd sit there. The leftovers, yeah. I'd sit there and I'd eat it. And it wasn't because they were mean. I understand that part. They were just so broken. They were so hurt. They thought I had completely gone behind their back, which I had. My dad had said, I wish you would talk to me about this. I would have helped you. I would have taken you to classes and taught you about the Quran and what Islam really is about. But my mind was already made up, and I'd fallen in love with this new Jesus, and I couldn't turn my back on him anymore. But it was really difficult. But at the same time, now being a parent, I could see their pain, and I could see it wasn't intentional, they just didn't know how to deal now with a child who's completely turned their back on a faith that they followed for hundreds of years through past generations.
You're now married to said Scott.
Yes, that's yeah, we are. We've been married for almost 14 years now. Yeah.
And what was it about that Jesus? What is it about that Jesus that you decided that, yeah, I'd have to give up a family, I'd have to give up all of those things in order to follow him?
You know, he made me feel whole. He made me feel like I finally belonged. I belong to this family now. My whole life I was the black sheep trying to find my place, and he showed me my place. He showed me that I have a place with him, right in his heart, right on his lap, to sit with him, to laugh with him, to cry with him, that he really is my best friend. You know, even in my darkest moments, I could sit and cry, and it's as if you and I are sitting here talking to each other. He's that tangible to me. And I can't turn that back for anything. I can't give it up, you know?
Thank you so much, Sohala.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Oh, I love what Sohala said, and I hope that resonates with you. There is room at the table for you as well. There is room at Jesus' table for you as well. If you don't know him, if you've heard a lot about this Jesus guy and you want to know more about him, please do call our prayer lines. They're at the bottom of our screen, 1-866-273-4444. You know, maybe you've made a mistake in your life. Maybe you've wandered off. Know that Jesus is standing there literally with open arms, just wanting you to say yes to him, and he will embrace you and take you in. So please do call our prayer lines. They'd love to get you connected. They'd love to pray with you so that you could accept Jesus into your heart. They'd love to get a Bible into your hands and connected with other Jesus followers that love him just as much. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is life-changing TV. 100 Huntley Street is 100% viewer-supported. We receive no government subsidy. We rely solely on donations from you, our viewer, to make this daily broadcast possible. Our dedicated media missionary team here of producers, editors, camera operators, and our hosts create and broadcast this program for you. They work at this with their whole heart, creatively, passionately, prayerfully, each one using their God-given talents. So I need to ask you, if you haven't ever or haven't recently made a donation to 100 Huntley Street, would you call today and become a partner at $10, $20, or more per month to equip us to give you more of what you love to watch on 100 Huntley Street. And if you can't donate, please just call to request your free subscription of our Reach magazine. Now enjoy today's program. God bless you.
Media. This medium. Curated, created, constructed, and colluded to communicate, to influence, to connect, and entertain. With ease, with speed. Over 7 billion people yearning to connect, yearning to be fed, always looking out for whatever's cool, whatever's funny, whatever's trending. The medium is the message, but are we receiving the message? When everything is constantly moving, constantly changing, there is one thing that will not change, one thing that will outlast our lives, one thing that lasts longer than time itself, one thing that knows no bounds, no status, no color. That one thing has a name. As missionaries, we are here to share that one name, Jesus. Using the ease and speed of media to spread light to the lost, to communicate, to influence, to inform, to connect. We are media missionaries.
I was raised in a family that loved Islam, and I was taught to love Islam. I was taught to love Allah, but concomitant with that was a belief that Islam was a religion of peace. And so when I saw things happening in the news overseas as a child, I thought that's not my religion. It didn't really strike home until 9/11 when you had to deal with it, and I realized, well, these people really did claim to be Muslim. So that was such a stark contrast to the Islam that I knew. I had made a friend who specifically had accepted Christianity a few years prior, and he began answering my questions, and I began challenging him some more, and I learned about the Bible. I learned that it was reliable. It took us a long time to actually investigate the manuscript evidence. We looked at the history, and I realized that no, the Bible has never been changed in any way that is uniform and undetectable. We know exactly the historical origins of the Scripture. And when it comes to the Quran, though, actually, there was a very specific moment in its history when a leader destroyed all the Quranic manuscripts and sent out an official copy. And when I realized that I'd been poking holes at the Bible this whole time, whereas the Quran was the one that was open to criticism, that was just a huge paradigm shift. I felt as if my world was shaking underneath me. Live a good, solid life. And in that, when you talk to Muslims about Christ, you just really see them as people. You know, ask them what their job is like, what sports teams they like, what issues they're having with their family. You know, get to know them personally. Whenever you can strike up a relationship, that's the direction to take. The verses that come to my mind are Matthew 22:37. You know, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So as you love Jesus, let them see that and love them at the same time.
Boy, what a powerful reminder there. Of course, we lost Nabil last year. He's with Jesus in heaven now. Absolutely. And, you know, I think of, you know, Suhala and also Nabil. They came from Muslim backgrounds, and they understand what it means, you know, to follow Christ. Sometimes you have to, you do have to put Jesus ahead of your family. And I know for Nabil, that was always a pain. And I also know, you know, for Suhala as well, that's the same thing, that separation from family. But the Lord's grace is there for them.
And the common thread that it took one person to be brave enough to share Jesus with both Suhala and Nabil's story, very similar. And that's a great challenge for me as well, as, you know, I think we all kind of struggle sometimes with sharing Jesus with certain people because we're afraid of being rejected, we're afraid of being laughed at. But, you know, a friend of mine once said, if it's good news, then why don't we declare it well? Why don't we tell more people about it? If we believe that the good news of the Bible is real, if we believe that the good news of Jesus is real, then we should be shouting that out to everybody. And so shout out to Scott and to Nabil's friend who did that. And now these two people love Jesus and are serving him well.
And Suhala also told us that 100 Huntley Street was so important to her.
Absolutely. Suhala also shared, after our interview, that she felt like this was full circle, that 100 Huntley Street was there for her, especially in the early days of her faith, because she wasn't allowed to go to church because of her family, you know, having that concern about Christianity. And she said if it wasn't for this show, she feels that her faith would have fizzled out. And now she's serving in ministry, her husband's serving in ministry, and that's because of you. That's because of those of you who have been partners with us faithfully, planting a seed. And you planted a seed in Suhala's life, and now we get to see the fruition of that.
And, you know, we would never say that 100 Huntley Street replaces the church.
Absolutely.
We're a part of the church, but there are many people. I have my Aunt Linda in Birchill, Saskatchewan, because of health issues, can't get to church. She watches us every day. Except,
hi, Aunt Linda.
Hi, Aunt Linda. And for all of you that can't get out, and for those of you who support this, that's why we do this program, to bring spiritual encouragement and nourishment. Thank you for all you do.
Bye. Have a great day.
See ya.